I don't know. It's just what do you say, right? Start a meeting where we have no audience and we don't know who might be watching or whatnot. But
Yeah.
yes, so we need the fire exit review. Thank you for that, right? The doors in which you came in on your side of the curtain. Thank you. Well, I guess we can move. We will have no public comment time, obviously, but need approval of the agenda as Kevin and Joyce as a second. And any motions to amend or anything like that? No? Then all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, 7-0. Christine, how are you doing? This is a new thing I know to us.
Hanging in there.
I know, because we're just getting started, but I want to make sure, please let us know if you need it, okay? Because I don't know what it takes to record these things as we go along. President's report, you know, I've thought long and hard and wrote down nothing. In terms of what's going on, it sought some ideas from other people about, right, and indeed, I think the general consensus was in these circumstances, we keep it to the essentials of what we need to do, and we'll get back to business as usual when the times allow us to do that, right? And I think that's generally good. So, although I hope it's never redundant for anybody in our district and those who may be watching, but indeed, Joyce, you said it, the kudos have been high. Thank you, Brett. You and then all of the administration staff, all of our employees everywhere, everything that's been done to clean buses, to clean kitchens, to clean the school, to pass out food, to the donations, the incredible amount of donations, the heart that has gone into this situation in a incredibly short period of time, deserves greater than the thanks that I have, I guess, to express, but all of us combined. But thank you. I don't know if it's an announcement, but since we were discussing beforehand, I did write that down, that the food distribution, for anybody who may be watching, right, is you show up and you say how many children you have and we pass it out. Where no IDs required or anything like that, right? So be comfortable that people are here to serve our community. But in that, I don't have anything else. I will open up if others would like to say anything here during the President's report.
I'll just, my own admiration and kudos for you, Brett, and for all the staff and administration that's really put together an amazing effort towards really mobilizing, right? Mobilizing to teach the kids and feed the kids and really stay in contact. And I think we passed around yesterday via virtually all the different administration groups sending notes or sending videos to their kids, right? Welcoming in the morning. I saw a post today, I don't know what media outlet it was, but of two kids that go to Jefferson Avenue, sitting at their kitchen table with their laptop, and Richard Green was saying good morning to all the students, and then they were about ready to get started. So, you know, I think it's just really incredible. I will say I know it's early in this process, and we're going to learn a lot about how to do virtual learning. I don't think virtual learning at all ever replaces a teacher, but I think it does augment, and I think we need to use this as a case study, if you will, for what it takes to really do this type of mobilization, because I don't think this will be the last time in our lifetime. These are becoming more and more common, and I think that we need to have a strategy to use technology to engage our kids, and sometimes engage them when they're in the building, but more importantly, in this case, engage them when they can't be in the building. I think we have the opportunity to really use that in real time as part of our regular, whether it be flipping the classroom or whatever. A lot of teachers do a lot of amazing things that I think we need to capture, and we need to figure out, okay, what works, what's best practice for different age groups, and then we just sort of need to utilize some of that during a normal operation so that when events like this do happen, it's not such a heavy lift. And you know, part of the amazing work that's been done is making 30,000 or 40,000 paper copies of things for kids to take home. That's probably not necessary altogether. I think we can probably do different things to avoid having to do that, but nevertheless, anyway, those are my comments. I think it's done a great job, and I think that we'll learn a lot through this process.
Everything's an opportunity to learn and to grow, and I am positive we'll come out better for it, but it doesn't make it enjoyable in the meantime, right, for everyone.
This is reminiscent of the ice storm of 1991. It was my first year teaching, and the difference between the ice storm and this is we don't have to worry about people being cold. We don't have to worry about people not having water. We don't have to worry about people not being able to access food. At least the time we're in today is easier to access. We can still go about our lives. We just have to alter what we do and how we do it, but we can still go to bed with warmth. We have our televisions, we have our computers, we have all the necessities that we're used to. We just have to adjust things. I think it's important also that we realize that it's not just us here in our little town, in our school district, but we have a greater community that we need to keep in mind. We're blessed that we have such resources in Fairport. I know the United Way has a special emergency site. If you go to the United Way site, they're gathering funds. They really need money and food donations, and if you go to the United Way's website, there's a link to where you can donate. I think that's important. We've got thousands and thousands of children in our city that really rely on food every day, and I know that they're really doing a good job of distributing there. And I'd also think it's important that we constantly keep in mind the people who work in our emergency services, whether it's at the hospital, whether it's on the ambulance crews, whether it's our fire, police. They're the ones on the front line. They're the ones who, if anyone's going to get it, they're going to get it. And it's important that we continue to help those. So any of our residents who are in any of those professions, we thank you for all that you're doing to help us with this.
Indeed. And a final thanks to Steve and Tony. Thank you for being here tonight and helping us with this somewhat new way of doing business for this interim. And with that, then I will turn our time over to our wonderful superintendent.
Thank you. Usually it's March 17th. Happy St. Patty's Day. We're talking about Brotherhood, Sisterhood Week usually around this time of year, and it's sort of there's a void, in our school community, but nonetheless, we are responding incredibly to these different times, and it is different, and there's so many people to thank, from Steve Lopez and Tony Exton to Michelle Savage, to our buildings and grounds, to our cleaners, to our administrative team, and our teacher leaders, and our teachers, and all the staff who want to contribute, transportation department. The list goes on and on. I walked into the cafeteria yesterday early in the morning, and we had our whole food service department boxing those lunches and breakfasts. And today we, for the very first day, we distributed over 350 lunches and breakfast opportunities for families to come to our service sites. It's been an incredible effort, and I'm just overwhelmed with how we as a community rally. We have an active, fluid communication plan. Christina Gerslin, our communication specialist, has done a great job trying to organize it with Mary Prusak as well, to try to get information out in a timely, succinct manner so people are informed. I would encourage people to go to our website. If you'll see the yellow banner that runs across it, that will lead you right to our website, and in different parts, so people can be informed. The distribution of education materials are it's the main theme that's occurring right now. Trying to get our students into school in a thoughtful, methodical way that reinforces and honors this concept of social distancing, which you are all modeling. I'm grateful for that. Our teachers and our staff members are in the building, who are in the building still are reinforcing that as kiddos are coming in, and families seem to be understanding what we're trying to accomplish, so we appreciate their patience. But definitely different times, and overwhelming with the amount of love and compassion, and getting staff in here. I knew once we got staff in here yesterday, it would take what we had and then just make it that much better. We met Saturday for 3 hours right in this room, again, socially spaced, but then when it came up with some really good plans, and then the teachers and staff members have come in and just elevated them and taken them to levels that you would only expect them I'm confident we will get through this. I feel that we'll be better and stronger. But it's a humbling experience to be a part of it, and seeing everybody really wanting to coordinate services and making sure that we have, a continuity of operations, making sure that we have credible academic activities to make sure that we can feed and nourish our students in this time. Those who don't have technology, at the high school, in just one day, they distributed over 50 laptops, to loan out. And I know that Time Warner has a free service. Again, all this is on our website at our hub. To see it all being, shared and operationalized, it's really powerful. I've had some really emotional moments where this was where I was seeing all this take place. So I'm grateful. I have a lot of gratitude in my heart. So, we'll be talking a little bit about budget and how we continue to move our programs forward. But again, I just remain in awe of the love and compassion and feelings we have for our community and, most importantly, our students. So thank you for giving me the honor.
Hey, Peter, can I make one more comment? Thank you, Brett. That was great. And just one other observation, and I know we talk about this a lot, is the partnership between schools and parents, right? And it's always important, but it's never more important and relevant than it is right now. Because parents are, to some degree, they're doing homeschooling, district-led homeschooling, helping their kids be connected and helping their kids through the activities and keeping them engaged with their teachers. And I think that that's so important. And I know that, you know this more than anybody, Brett, because you're a parent as well as a superintendent in this situation. You've got kids at home, and I think the parents realize that, hey, they still want their kids to be engaged with school. They want them to learn and be connected to their teachers, even in a virtual kind of way. So it's really more of a comment on the commitment of the community, and I've seen our PTA leadership in the district really step up and help guide people and lead people and give them resources, both in the district and outside of the resources, kind of cool things to do.
So I've learned a lot, and, this idea of social distancing and flattening the curve, those are some big ideas and concepts out there that we need to remain committed to. So how do we become more connected, right, when we're asking people to social distance, right? And I think that's one of the big challenges, and parents are a big partnership with that. That's a real idea that we need to embrace and try to figure out. It's sort of weird, like you guys are all so far away, right? And in Fairport, we talk about connections, but we're finding other ways to connect and bring this to life and do it in a way that's meaningful. I do have to say one other thing. Like I've really had the opportunities to connect with some incredible professionals in our community. Our Monroe County Department of Health has been an incredible resource. The Monroe County superintendents have been great sounding boards, learning and growing together. So it's nurturing those partnerships to bring it back to this community. I was just on the phone with the Monroe County Department of Health as I was coming in here, too, just to make sure that we're doing things right. And having a critical friend like that's reassuring. It's not perfect, okay, but it is reassuring. And again, we could talk all night about that, and all the wonderful parts that you just mentioned as well.
I was listening to a psychologist talk, and especially around children, they said a better term to use is personal distancing instead of social distancing, because personal, it's just we're distancing ourselves personally, but social, it's more global. They said personal, and I like that. It's not as drastic, but we're still understand the term.
I'll use it on Twitter tonight.
Okay, well, thank you. Anything else? We will go to Mr. Stevenson for our treasurer and investment update.
Okay, thank you and good evening. All tough acts to follow. But tonight we have the Treasurer Investment Report for January of 2020. We had a beginning general fund cash balance of $76.7 million. Receipts during the month, of $9.4 million, mostly associated with state aid. Disbursements of $10.3 million for an ending cash balance of $75.7 million, of which about $71.4 million is invested in the mix of the cash sweep, mostly T-bills and CD. So it's about 94% overall of the general fund cash. Thank you.
Thanks. And although we haven't talked about the revenue side, and we'll deal with that at another time, our interest earning lines is going to be way down for next year, right? 'Cause,
Yeah, I was gonna ask, I mean, financially, what's the impact of the current environment to the district? What's the risk?
It'll impact interest rates. I mean, right now, we have, some investments locked up for some time, but beyond anything that's been locked up or what might mature, interest rates are down to 15 basis points on a T-bill, so
Okay.
they've
So-
dropped
Well, I
relatively.
heard today that
But borrowing rates are zero.
it was announced that taxes aren't due there's a 90-day extension
For
on
payment.
tax payments.
Right.
Right.
You still have to file by the 15th. Yeah, I checked with the accountants today. You have to file by the 15th, but you don't have to pay. You have 90 more days to
Okay.
pay.
All right. So will that have any impact to the district in terms of receiving tax revenue from the local share?
You're talking about
Those are
sales tax?
person, yeah, that's.
Sales
no,
tax revenue,
I think you're talking about.
Well, I'm talking about federal taxes,
Property,
but-
you're talking property
Yeah,
tax, but
right.
the other piece is talking about
Yep.
personal income tax, right, filings?
Yep. So property tax, I'm just thinking out loud,
Have not heard anything that it would
Right.
impact our
Right.
collection of property tax.
Right.
Usually it's in April that
Right.
that comes due to
How
districts.
about the state budget being passed on time? I mean, I know there's a lot of other things that are priority right now.
I just was on a conference call, and that will continue as projected. We probably, yep, that's still the goal as of today. You've started going over to the sales tax part of the conversation and the real impact of what this is doing to our economy. Does that have an impact? And I think that's a big question mark, but I think that's the big question. I mean, that's what we need to really, keep an eye on, because how does it affect our, funding and future funding and budgets that will be looming.
Not to be a doomsayer, but the last time we had a financial crisis of this magnitude, it spelled bad news for public education. So I just think that's something we have to be aware of, obviously.
we had a discussion on the village side of things yesterday, and sales tax revenue is definitely going to be different. Definitely, we're anticipating, because that's one of the few revenue sources that any municipality has that it fluctuates. We don't even know what it could be.
Economic driven, yep.
Right, and most other sources of revenue are pretty consistent. And obviously, your tax levy is the one that we determine here as a group. But we had about an hour discussion yesterday, and we're looking at we're going to project three different ways when we do our budget for the village. Three different possibilities for sales tax. Because according to economists, according to what you're hearing, some people are saying it'll be July or August before things really start to settle and come around. So, that's significant.
It's simple math, right? If you think of it just gas prices are down, great, but that means sales tax, because they're a percentage of that,
Mhm.
are down. Right?
And
Yeah, it was an easy commute, yeah.
and when people are losing significant investments, and yes, it's reactionary at the moment, people aren't buying automobiles, people aren't buying new appliances, they're not going on vacations. They're not staying in hotels.
And this is us being not doomsday?
For today.
Yeah, right. But we're hopeful.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, I'm hopeful and optimistic because we have spent the last multiple years going through and shoring up us as a district, right? And so we have some wherewithal, for sure. How the state's impacted and how they push that through, we'll still have to wait and see, but we still have the wherewithal for us, I think, to control our destiny and our budget.
And I'm glad that people in the state have made it a point that school districts and municipalities can only invest in very secure investments because our money is still here. There are some entities that they've lost 30% of their money, so. Thank you.
Okay, well, since we're trying to stay on happy notes now. Our consent calendar. Right, we don't discuss that, but the items there, if you like any of those removed, now's the time to amend the agenda to remove an item. Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion to approve. Joyce second, Judy, or Joyce first, Judy second, sorry. No discussion, so all in.
I do have a discussion. The textbooks that are being accessed, are those going to be given to someone or?
So that's part of the consent calendar, not supposed to discuss. Would you like that
Okay.
removed from
No, no,
the consent
that's okay.
calendar?
No, no.
Just as a Robert's Rules of Order.
Okay.
The answer is yes, though.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm not such a, any opposed? Sorry, I can only think of the Spanish word for it right now.
I'm used to just having conversations.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry, someone
No.
pounded that one into me for consent calendar. Donations. Though there are 4 donations here, they used to be part of consent calendar. Again, we always want them removed so we can say thank you to Wegmans, our Fairport Softball Booster Club, and the Dudley PTA, which we see quite frequently. But thank you to all of them. Need a motion to accept these donations.
Moved.
Tim first, second by Marty. Anybody else want to say thanks? Or no, we all say thanks. I'll say on behalf of everybody, but anything particular? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, 7-0. Personnel actions, first on the list is our instructional. And you have the documentation, so a motion to approve the instructional staff actions.
So moved.
Tim, second. Joyce? Do we have questions? We do not have Doug here tonight purposefully, but I'm sure if there's anything, no?
Would Brett like to make a motion about one of our appointees?
Well, we have some. We welcome a probationary appointment for principal at Jefferson Ave School. We're excited to welcome Mr. Ryan Charno upon board approval. He's going to be an excellent addition, and he's going to bring a lot of positive energy and care, and complement all the great things that they've been doing over the past several years at Jefferson Avenue, and continue to help that community be the best it could be. There was an incredible process, over 30 candidates, which really tells me that people are interested in our school district. You know, we screened personally, Mr. Loff and myself, 15 candidates, which were then narrowed to 8 to the committee, interview committee, and there was 3 finalists that focus groups got a chance to interact with, and great process. I really feel we got the best candidate for a recommendation for the board to consider. Congratulations on this opportunity.
Great.
Indeed, Mr. Charno.
And he's all in, and lots of excitement, and when you talk to him, you're gonna feel his love and passion for our schools and kids.
Seen it, and he was there with my younger kids, so, yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0. Now would be probably the proper time to applaud, but. Non-instructional and civil service, a motion to approve. Nobody? No, Joyce first, Marty second. Questions or comments for this section? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, 7-0. Athletic appointments, need a motion to approve. Judy first, I'll second that. Any comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, 7-0. And we have 2 memorandums, the first one with our Fairport Administrators Association. A motion to approve this memorandum of agreement. Marty first, Judy second. Questions or comments? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None? 7-0. And the second one with the FEA, Fairport Educators Association, need a motion to approve. Joyce first. I'll second that. I said Joyce, but I meant Judy. It's one of the J's. Judy first, sorry. And I'll second it. Not purposely. Okay, any other comments, though, about, besides me? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? 7-0. So our instructional budget. It is, since the state plans have passed, we need to keep on schedule. Mr. Stevens, Mr. Provenzano.
So this is, I already gave my report, so we're going to do the instruction report. I'm sorry, yeah, we're a little bit off. We have a modified agenda here, so thank you, Steve, I appreciate it. They don't want to see this, they just went through that. It's fine. Thanks, Steve. Straight online, so. Straight on, straight on the docs. You need to decide here? You want me to send it to you? Then you put it out to
Yeah, I think the funds is the right one.
Can you email it to Tony, please? That's okay. I'm not even worried about this one.
Yeah, here, space.
Matt, you got it, bud?
Yep.
Thanks.
Hey, Brett, while we're waiting for the technical difficulties, I just got a important message came through on my virtual portal. And the message is that the district art teachers want us to know that they are sorry that they're not here tonight to be recognized. And we're sorry as well, so thank you to the art teachers.
We'll definitely know we'll have an opportunity in the future to get him back up on the docket to celebrate as long as we move forward, as well as our Dollars for Scholars and recognitions that we were going to do tonight as well. So, you know,
We're always connected, Brett.
what's that?
We're always connected.
Always connected. You know, You know, the budget process continues, and we do have obligations to make sure that we, you know, publicly share about budget and talk about our story through our budget and how we create opportunities for students and staff to interact with each other, provide multiple different opportunities. The overview of this budget will be our instructional budget and our revenues, which will include our instructional budget, our expenditure plan, review of our tax levy limit, revenue projections and long-range planning. And just by given where we've been this past week, and Mr. Stevens is going to be talking to you a lot about all these pieces. I'll be joining in to supplement, but I think Mr. Stevens will be doing most of the driving tonight. I would say that, you know, this budget, again, and I think this has been an incredible testament to the board's high expectations of, you know, you create a budget that is directly related to your goals. There's pieces in this budget that help us define who we are as a school community and what the Board of Education's priorities are. It's about making sure that we have developmentally appropriate class sizes, making sure that the mental health needs of our students are systematically addressed, connections, curriculum management, so that there's a coherent curriculum in place. Again, pieces of the budget speak to that. You'll see explicit items in this budget that speak to the maintenance of our facilities and our building infrastructure, making sure that we're protecting those investments. And I think of our strategic initiatives, and I think of facilities planning, and very proud of the fact of our facilities planning team that board members sit on, and help us define what our expectations are with facilities. You'll see a commitment to the multipurpose field, getting that field taken care of and managed through this budget process. Cost containment, where can we continually find ways to be efficient and responsive and responsible to our whole community. And we understand the importance of reserves. I think Mr. Forsgren said it best. Having these reserves helps us have a little bit more control and help us manage future planning endeavors as well. So again, these are all priorities, and you'll see bits of these played out throughout the budget process. Our educational priorities continue to talk about and reinforce the concepts of whole child programming, social-emotional well-being of our students, and educational programming relative to our strategic initiatives. And we have long-term objectives of making sure that we're fiscally viable and make sure that we're maximizing efficiencies and always protecting our investments and risk management. I'm going to transition to Mr. Stevens, and he'll jump in. And I'll jump in periodically.
Okay, thank you, and good evening, everybody. Excuse me. So the first portion, really, what we're going to go through tonight is the highlighted portion of the instructional budget, and we'll jump through the rest as we get towards the end in the summary basis. But overall, you can see as the instructional budget, it's about a 3.43% increase, or $2.3 million over the 2019 budget. To give a quick summary of the enrollment, so here's enrollment over the past 3 years with the projection for 2020-21. You can see approximately 21 students projection right now for the 2021 school year compared to our beds information in 2019-20. Next piece is the K through 5 class sections and sizes. So the goal information similar to 1920 in terms of the ranges, and then on the right-hand side how that translates over to the building level overall. So you can see should the enrollment figures on the previous slide stay true, at Dudley we would recognize a one less section. At Northside we would see 2 additional sections. I believe those primarily are at 5th grade for Northside, given the cohort of students going through the building that would transition from 4th to 5th grade. And again, our secondary sectioning would also, similar as 2019-20 in terms of the class size projection, and then our standard for the student-to-teacher ratio within the classes. Obviously, anomalies where there may be lower ratios depending on the course itself, what's running, capstone, and so forth. So here's a quick summary as we transition through the instructional budget of the major staffing pieces. Elementary, the net between the 2 and -1 at Dudley is 1.0 K5, 2.0 in terms of our health education teachers. That is taking each elementary building from 0.5 to a 1.0, you'll see within this budget, so a net 2.0 overall. And then in middle school, looking at teaming and class sizes, that's to approximately a 2.0 increase, of which about 1.45 is related to the teaming model over at the middle schools. So jumping into the pieces of the instructional budget, first you see the instructional admin. That's what it takes to run our buildings. You can see the slight increase there of 2.4%, primarily related to salary changes, along coupled with any changes in staffing and retirements and so forth in transition there, as well as any of the office staff that fall within those buildings, like that could be the building admin, principals, and so forth there. So in general instruction, you see about a 3.56% increase. This is the bulk of the general ed piece. So that's the, anything from, our K-12 education, elementary, secondary with all the subject areas and so forth within there. So it's all the pieces it takes to provide the general instruction across the district. Special ed, you can see there is about a 2.87% increase. Includes our staffing, that includes any of our tuition due to outside, to private schools, any of the private placements that we have, our BOCES programs that we have our special ed students in. You can see there it's a 2.87% increase, or $550,000. Occupational ed, it's about a 2% increase, 2.16. That's our OC ed programs in district, as well as the EMCC program over at BOCES that our students participate in. And as you look through these, they're general increases mostly based on simply salary. Within, I'll just kind of back up a little bit, within the instructional admin, the general instruction, that's where you would see the health education as well as the elementary teachers. And summer school, you see a large increase here. This is simply a shift from our alt ed budget line over to summer school. And truing up the codes as we're into ESSA reporting and funding transparency. We identified that over the years, our tutors in the summer that were in the alt ed program were paid out of a general instruction code school year, really should be shifted over to summer. So we saw it shift into summer in 1920. We were able to identify those individuals to be sure we had the budget line in the right place. Next piece is our library media instructional computing. So our school media specialist, our instructional tech support across the district that we have. You see about a 6.28% increase here. That's primarily related to our ease off of the reserve for the Tech Reserve Alliance. So here we budget an increase of $55,000 within the BOCES code to drive BOCES 8 in the future. And our pupil services, our guidance, our health services, psych, social work, here at about 4.54% increase. That's simply related to our staffing and between our special ed and our pupil services, psychologists and so forth, there's a shift in terms of which individuals may be paid through a grant. So that's why you may see a little bit higher increase here. But no additional staff in that line, just in terms of what the federal grants are covering.
And that also includes the administration, the directors.
Nope, the directors are back in the instructional admin.
The two new proposed health employees are in this line, though, pupil services. Is that the one they show up there?
No, the health services is nursing. So our nurses. Yep, the health is actually in the general instruction. My water way over there. Good questions. Student activity and athletics, those would be our co-curricular, our clubs, and our athletic programs, all our coaches, advisors, and all the supplies, materials, and equipment that it takes to run those programs, about a 3.1% increase there, for a total instructional budget increase, again, of the 3.43% increase.
For clubs, how much have we, do you just know offhand how much
I
are the
don't.
club side?
I don't know how many clubs we have.
How many clubs do we have?
No, how much is allocated for clubs specifically? Right.
Because we did
see.
increase the number of clubs.
350?
at that rate, so I assume
You sure?
Right. I know
Right,
I used to be there. I
approximately.
used to know it myself even, but I have.
Yeah, I think it's about around 350, 400,000.
Yeah, I was gonna say
yeah.
350 was in my mind,
Yeah.
so are we up to
Mhm.
closer to 4 now? Okay. Has the elementary, they've had a overwhelming turnout when we added clubs at the elementary
Yep,
level.
the elementary pieces are alive and well in here, and you'll see it reflected in these budget lines. And again, really excited about the fact that there's been an incredible turnout. You wonderfully granted more access to clubs because we had overwhelmingly a great number of students who were, not able to get into a club at Northside. But you guys, we were able to, allocate more for advisors and all students who were able to participate. So that's great news.
In terms of the connections and the memories, it seems to be those are easy. I don't want to say easy, right? I know they take work, but they're just good ways to get to students.
I think it's important also to identify in the athletics that a lot of booster clubs also assist with our athletic teams. So that doesn't cover all of our expenses because our booster clubs do add and do donate some things to us.
Which we saw in the donations of jerseys and other equipment. Yep.
Great, thank you. So the next piece, jumping into the rest of the budget, the general support. Here, we talked about these last board meeting, but again, the Board of Ed, that increase is related primarily to the district clerk position going from part-time to full-time in 2019-20, and adjusting for that in 2020-21. Superintendent's office, HR, finance, our public information, an increase of 5.6% related to the BOCES services, primarily over at Monroe 2 BOCES. We have our public information service, which I would, venture has been extremely important, especially during the times that getting information out as a whole. So that's the 3 days a week that we have an individual from Monroe 2 BOCES helping out. Legal is flat. Our central services, that's related to our operations and maintenance, as well as our tech central services, kind of some of the backbone pieces are on the back end of what's running the district, an increase of approximately 5% there. Within there, you will see the building condition survey, increase for the building condition survey, coupled with a decrease in phones because we've gotten through our phone replacement plan in 2019-20, some website work, and licensing through BOCES for our tech services. And special items, increase of 9.25%. Most of that is, within special items would be our insurance, our BOCES admin costs. So within there, the $180,000 primarily is related to the BOCES capital project that has come on, which is over $300,000 for Fairport in year one, which is 2021 for our first payment. So netted with, without that BOCES capital, you'd see a decrease in that area, but overall, it's an increase because of the BOCES capital.
And our students benefit from the BOCES work that is occurring. The capital improvement project, we have, I think it was 70 students that participate in our EMCC programming. So we'll definitely be able to see the benefits of that through that pavement and capital improvement project.
And that's now a capital exclusion?
It's a capital exclusion, and it drives BOCES aid. So it's driving BOCES aid and flows into the tax cap for a capital exclusion.
I think it warrants stating, first of all, Board of Education, the 7 of us do not see any of that money. That is to support us in our efforts to run the school district with superintendent in his office. And also in the special items that you alluded to, a lot of those special items are mandates from the state that the state does not fund us for. They say you must do this, and it's out of the taxpayer dollar. We are not going to help you with that, such as the building condition survey. We have no control over that. We have to do that, but we have to pay for it.
Great, thank you. Next piece is our transportation. These are different variables that the district has related to fuel, our private school transportation, our staffing, and our contract transportation. So as we look at this, overall, our transportation budget's up 6.5%. Primarily related to contract transportation. So the entire $481,000, contract transportation is up approximately $600,000. So if you could imagine a decrease in salaries coupled with the increase in the contract transportation, those pieces have, been looked at, and salaries itself for drivers has been dropped because we are contracting out, so. Our bus purchases, it's about 1.28 million after trade-in. Also is a capital exclusion within the tax cap in terms of the local share. It's approximately a 10-year replacement cycle, so in 2020-21, the district's planning to replace 11 buses. But given the fact that we've been increasing our contract transportation over the past couple of years, looking at trading in 13 buses. So, and try to, maximize and bring a little bit more trade-in in, also recognize and ease off of our fleet in terms of whether or not the district sees contract transportation as a long-term piece. Obviously, we'd love to be hiring staff and drivers with our own buses, but also, trying to recognize the increased contracting that the district's been doing.
Don't know with our circumstances as they are, we were, and can I still say are studying that, right? How to attract drivers. So that's not going to go away just because of our current situation, right? We'll still be looking at that, but just for those who were not at the workshop, which was almost nobody, right, we are considering the time switch still and the cost on transportation, what it would be in the short term and long term. So we're looking at all those things.
And on the other side of that, coupled with our salaries for our drivers, there's also a no health insurance costs for any of the drivers that we haven't had. So, we will see from a cash standpoint, the district won't be paying out health benefits for staff that we perhaps would have been paying on the drive side. So the contract transportation increase, really the decrease kind of flows into two different areas of the budget. So of the contract transportation between the BOCES and others, we do contract with BOCES as well. BOCES is approximately $700,000 of our contract transportation that BOCES has the fleet, and we can contract with them primarily for our special needs transportation. And then the remainder, about $1 million is related to contracting out. If we remember years back, that was much lower. We've seen that really jump up over the past couple of years.
Can I just say, we are continuing to advertise, because that actually, a silver lining is overstating it, but there are lots of sectors that are laying people off already, and bus driver is a guaranteed ongoing position. We are continuing to advertise.
Aggressively in multiple different networks. Yep, and it's part of our task force that is studying how do we continue to try to attract them, once you put the advertisement out there. And, occasionally you'll even see, buses in front of, large, shopping areas. I won't say any particular names. We're tweeting out information about our transportation center and what a great opportunity it would be to make a great contribution. So, yes.
Are we running buses at all during this time?
We do have buses helping out with the food delivery. So our transportation department and food service department are partnering together to get out to the 5 different locations. We have 6 locations going on, but one is the high school, but getting the buses out to the other locations for the bag lunches.
Yeah. Are we hiring? I know we're advertising, we're interviewing people. Are we hiring right now during this time as well?
I think it's always an ongoing practice. I know there's been some job fairs and some other reach outs that Doug and Peter Lawrence, have been looking at and attending, but.
It becomes a bidding war. And, that's what the whole idea of the task force is how do you make, an attractive place to be. It's a great, wonderful community, but it becomes a bidding conversation.
Okay, the next piece is our community service budget line. You see a decrease here from 17.5 to 2,500, or $15,000, 85% decrease. This is related to our evening use of the pools. Historically, this budget line.
It's been flat ever since I've been on the board, so
Yeah,
this is
so-
surprising. Well, I just wonder what's driving it, though. Is the community use way down?
Historically, there was a time where the district was paying an individual through the before FAST program came about. Now that person's paid through FAST, so it's
Okay.
just in terms of where the costs have shifted. It's been like that for a few years. We continue to monitor it, and now that I've been here for a few years and I'm able to see the history is going to continue, feel
Just-
comfortable with this
Yep.
decrease here.
Is one pool?
Believe we allow people to use both pools throughout, but these, what you'd see flow through here now would be our, any evening lifeguards or those pieces. So it's not a large dollar amount, and then we have facility use fees on the other side of the budget for revenue. The next piece is the employee benefits. One of the larger pieces of the budget. You can see overall an increase of 4.84%. Here you have our pension systems, the employee retirement system, TRS, teacher retirement system. The rate increases for ERS. ERS is projected to be flat from an average contribution rate of 14.9%. You still see an increase there because it's based off of salaries, so it's still a percent calculation based off of increases in salaries as a whole. But a smaller increase of 1.97%. The teacher retirement system is projected to increase from 8.86 to 9.53%. So this translates, after looking at the overall instructional salaries within the budget, that would include teachers, any certified administrators and so forth would be in the teacher retirement system. It's an overall increase of 10.36%. Our Social Security is based off of wages. It's 7.65% of wages. So there's an increase there of 2.62. Workers' comp up 19,700. It's related to our experience. So the district is in a consortium for workers' comp. It's helped kind of keep costs, minimized, but it's also based off of experience in the consortium for each district that's in as well. So it's a balance in looking at historical experience that drives premium there. Our health and dental increase of 4.85% for budget. District's projecting an increase in health in 2021 of 10% across our plans. That would be our RASP 2, which is our bigger healthcare plan for all of our actives. And then we have RASP 1, which is a smaller plan, an older plan. And then any of our Medicare over 65 plans we have as well. So that translates from a budget to budget, looking at current year expenses. That's why it's not a straight 10% increase here, of looking at our expenses in current year and projecting that out for the following year. And our plan runs on a January through December calendar year basis. So we're estimating rates for 6 months of 2020-21 school year.
And of those lines, something I guess we'll have to be aware of where our reserves are going to come in is the retirement. If I'm not mistaken, it's based on a 5-year average of the stock market or some part of the calculation. Well, this year's average is not going to be very positive, at least as it stands right now. So that means our contribution will lag, but it likely is to go up here in the next year or two.
5-year average just reverted to the mean, right? The gains in the last 3 years are wiped out. So.
But it's rolling, right? So at some point this hits us. That's why I say this is probably a lagging. But regardless, we'll have to keep that in mind over the next couple of years, that we just want to watch it.
That's a good point.
Especially if our economy does go into a recession type of economy, then that is definitely going to be a direct impact.
Yeah.
Direct impact.
That's a great point. And then the last piece is our other benefits, and you can see down below, that's our life insurance, unemployment insurance, disability, our flex spending, our health savings accounts that we contribute to for employees, same with health reimbursement accounts. We have an employee assistance program that we offer, any tuition reimbursements for staff related to contracts, and when we have retirements. So when we have retirements and separation, they're paid out of the other benefit piece when funds are going into a 403B or employer contributed 403B and so forth. So you see a net there of a decrease of 26,000. That's primarily related to unemployment. So if you remember a few years back, we increased the budget for unemployment insurance. We slowly have been decreasing it based off of actual expenses that have continued to come in. So that's been decreased another $75,000 from the 2019-20 budget. So overall benefit increase of $1.7 million. The next piece is our debt service and interfund transfers. Debt service and our transfer to debt service fund are kind of one and the same, although the debt service bands or bond anticipation notes, those are paid out of the general fund. Any of our long-term debt, like our serial bond payments, those are paid out of our debt service fund. We simply transfer the money out of the general fund to the debt service fund. So overall, between the two of those, you can see, why there's a $594,000 decrease in our bond anticipation notes. That's because we took some short-term debt and converted it to long-term debt. So now it's down in the transfer to debt service fund. So you see the increase there of $506,000. Overall, between the two, there was a slight decrease in our debt service overall. Transfer to special aid fund, that is related to our local share of special ed summer school programming, of which we receive aid back from the state, but we do have a local share cost as a school district of 20% that just gets transferred to the special aid fund. So it's any of our summer programming that we have for our special ed programs. And then the transfer to capital fund is the $100,000 capital outlay project that schools are allowed to do each year. It does receive building aid in the following year. And here we're looking to do the Joanna Perrin Nurse's Office renovation. This work actually wouldn't take place until 2 years out because we're behind on a cycle in terms of when the construction actually happens. This year, it's our Brooks Hill Library air conditioning being done. Next year would be some exterior doors for the Fairport High School. And then this JP Nurse's Office would be in 2021-22 for the construction. So overall, between the debt and transfers, it's a decrease of 1.33%. And here it is all put together. So our instructional budget coupled with all the other pieces is an overall budget to budget increase of $5.2 million or 3.95%. Now we'll take a look at the revenues and see how the pieces flow together as a whole. So the main revenues we know about are that we have our state aid and our property taxes. We also receive sales tax, charges for services like facility use, interest earnings, admissions for any productions we have, and then the reserves and fund balance that are used to balance the revenue side of the budget. We'll spend a lot of time on this, but the property tax cap is still here. 2%. It's not exactly 2% because it's related to a formula that allows exclusions. Here's a quick history snapshot of our budget, our levy, and our tax rate. So if you take a look back in 2018-19, the tax levy for the district went up 3.21%. The district collected the tax levy, but we remember assessments went up in 2018-19, which in turn has an inverse relationship on the tax rate. So you see the tax rate is down 4.27%. In 2020-21, we may experience a similar thing because some assessments are looking to be changed. So if the overall tax base increases, the tax levy will remain the same for the district, but the tax rate may be a lower tax rate.
Matt, do you use current assessment rates or the new ones that just came out 2 weeks?
I always use current assessments until anything's final. It's subject to change. So the tax base can go up or down depending on
We would see the new assessments
August.
in August because we do send out bills in September 1.
Yep, when the tax rate is set.
So it would hit with this budget.
Correct.
Tax levy hasn't changed.
The levy itself, once we set the levy will be the levy. So if the levy is $80 million, $80 million gets collected. We don't go collect more because assessments went up. It levels out based on the tax base. Here's just a chart of the previous information. You can see overall the tax rate has actually been lower than the tax levy over the years, which means in those particular years, the tax base increased a little bit, so therefore the rate went down. So here's the formula and calculation for 2020-21's current tax levy limit projection. So we start with the prior year levy, so that's our 2019-20 levy. We have a tax base growth factor for Perrington of 1.0054, so that's the tax base growth in Perrington. If you remember last year, that growth was over 2%. Here it's just about 0.5%. That has a natural impact in terms of what the tax levy limit can be because that's one of the pieces that allow growth in the levy itself. Pilots, we have to add in from current year, and then we subtract out next year's pilots down below. The 2% for the cap that's referenced in the tax cap is really 1.81% for school districts in 2021. That's because CPI growth was 1.81%. So if CPI growth was greater than 2%, it would be capped at 2%. If it's less than 2%, the growth factor for the levy is actually only 1.81%. It's that amount. Then down below, we have our capital levy exclusions. That's a combination of our local share of debt, our local share of the capital purchases related to the buses, as well as the BOCES capital projects that the district pays for, less the aid. Overall, all said and done, the percentage change from 2019-20 is 2.13%. So 79.5 million would be the tax levy limit for Fairport in 2020-21. And that would be the amount to be collected. Again, it wouldn't be more than that. It would go up to the tax levy limit itself. So that number can slightly change once we continue to get additional information on pilots, but it doesn't change by much for the following school year.
And in relation to pilots, we have no control over that.
No, you are absolutely correct. It is driven by the County of Monroe Industrial Development Agency and the village as a industrial development agency as well.
Matt, can you explain the tax-based growth factor?
Yep.
Again, and where that comes from?
That's set by the state Office of Real Property Tax Services, and it's based on any growth within your township, and it's set by the state. So it's growth in the tax base itself.
So the fact that the town is reassessing property values,
May not come until the following year for a growth factor for us.
but you would expect that number would be impacted in some way?
In some
March
way,
from now.
but not until the 2021 budget building. Mhm. Yep, that's what we saw from 18-19. We saw the growth in 19-20.
And that growth will be pretty significant.
Yeah.
As we were
The
all
growth-
shocked, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's based on new builds, any of those coming onto the books that relate to the tax base.
Anybody who improves their home, that is included in that.
Mhm.
Well, only if the home's reassessed, is that right?
Well, they all were.
Yeah, it's based on assessment. Mhm.
Does the change in environment, I mean, I don't know how it will impact real estate, but does that give people opportunity to protest their recent change if suddenly the market is flattened out quite a bit? Yeah. Guess we'll have to see how all that plays out in the next few months.
Yeah. Okay, so the next piece we'll look at are the state aid. So overall, our main piece of state aid, and this information is based on the governor's proposal. So far, the governor's budget the state budget has been finalized. It's not till April, assuming it's an on-time budget, April 1st. Foundation aid within the governor's proposal is up 0.4% or $95,000. Transportation, BOCES, and building aid, those are our expense-driven aids. Based on expenses we have in the 2019-20 school year, will drive 2020-21 aid, and that's up $740,000. That's primarily related to a lot of the contract transportation, any of the BOCES services that we have transitioned over to. And then our building aid is just based off of our debt service payment schedule.
Matt, can I ask a quick question? Maybe Brett would have the answer, but in terms of the impact of what we're doing right now with distance learning, is there any impact to the 180-day requirement in terms of foundation aid?
So far, for any schools that have been closing, Governor has waived the requirement of the 180 days, as long as it's within the governor's direction. If schools choose to do it themselves, that's outside of that, and those wouldn't be waived. So April 1st right now.
What about the impact of state testing, which won't happen?
3 through 8 tests have been delayed.
Delayed?
That's the information that we received. They're not shipping the tests to the buildings.
And regents requirements?
To be determined. Everything's staying the course, but as we move along and learn more each day, that will become a little bit more clear.
Thanks.
AP exams as well.
Next piece is our aidable materials, textbook, library materials, our hardware, software aid, urban suburban, and our tuition aid are all within that budget line. Those are projected to be fairly stable and flat as a whole. So that's why you see about a $1,700 increase there, for a total state aid increase of approximately $870,000 or 2.11%.
Did you have a federal aid line item on there?
Our Medicaid would all be within the, actually, our federal aid's a separate line item for Medicaid. Mhm. Federal grants are a whole separate fund.
Yeah.
So anything we receive related to federal grant funding, that's within our special aid fund. So that wouldn't flow through here. Here's just a history of the state aid. You can see back in 14, 15, 16, eventually these will start to drift off the slide. It's hard to believe we're 4 or 5 years beyond that. But in those years, we had the gap elimination adjustment, which is why we saw increases in school districts because there was restoration of those funds, or they were no longer going to take the money back from us. So since then, our increases have started to level out. So on this slide, you see there were large increases in state aid dating back to 16, 17. After that, it's primarily our foundation aid increase and any of our expense-based aids that have gone up. So our total revenue with the property tax and state aid is about $2.7 million or 2.12%. The next piece is what have we historically done and currently projected in the 2020-21 budget for our reserve usage and debt service fund transfer. The debt service fund, that's money coming from our debt service reserve, or it's not a debt service, it's a debt service fund, money sitting there from previous projects. It can only be used to pay off any local share of debt. So we've had a plan to utilize $400,000 per year. In 1920, the reason that's $504,000 is because we receive premiums on some short-term borrowings that we place in the debt service fund for a year, and they come back to pay off the interest payment in the following year. So in 2021, it's back to the $400,000. Our tax tertiary reserve at $20,000, unemployment at $60,000, and budgeting retirement contribution reserve for ERS of $1.24 million. So you can see that's staying in line from where we were in 2019-20.
And depending on how things come out, we could increase that a little bit.
Yep, we'll talk right here on this slide. So how does it all add together in looking at the expense side of the budget and the revenue side of the budget with the reserves and fund balance? So as you see, the total budget, currently the draft one budget is $137.4 million, revenues of $129.1 million, our transfer from debt service fund, and then our assigned fund balance for revenue and reserves of $134.7 million, which means the current draft one is about $2.6 million short from being balanced from revenues and reserve usage over to the expense side of the budget. So what's that mean? A couple things. We still have the final state budget that we're awaiting. It also means that areas that the district can look at are, is related to any reserve monies that the district's able to put away in previous years. We're looking at fund balance in some of those different areas to identify a way to look at the shortage in terms of addressing it. That's where we are right now in terms of the draft one budget compared to the revenues.
And that we get sales tax paid 3 times a year or
4.
4?
Here's just the information in a pie chart, just to show where we are right now from a percentage revenue shortage basis, 1.9% of the total revenues itself. You can see that little piece of the pie sticking out right there. I will draw over the years, down at the bottom here on this previous slide, that the district has lowered its reliance on reserves in the past. So naturally, when budget increases, the percentage starts to drop if we're staying at the same level. So again, that's an area the district can look at in terms of the assigned fund balance and any reserve allocations as we jump into the reserves, and you'll see the balances next year. So reserve funds, our long-term planning, the district does have a reserve plan that's been approved annually by the board, and the Audit and Finance Committee has reviewed that. Reserves are set aside for purposes under law, so we'll take a look at the different types of reserve funds that the district has. Comptroller has said it's important to plan to have reserves available, contrary to when they're in looking at reserve balances. But again, the district, Fairport School District, has been very fortunate to have the reserve funds to help balance budgets and take care of capital projects and so forth on the taxpayer side. So here's our capital reserves. This is long-term planning. The three different capital reserves Fairport has is a capital project reserve, so that's for buildings, capital technology reserve, and a capital bus reserve. The capital project reserve, as of June of 19, was at $9.6 million. If you remember, the vote in December approved the district to utilize $7 million of the $9.6 million. So at year end of 2020 or 21, depending on when the cash actually moves over to the capital fund, that balance will be down $7 million. Our capital tech reserve of $2.7 million. Annually, the district has received approval from voters to utilize monies out of the capital technology reserve. In 2019-20, that amount was $464,000. In 2020-21, the district will be asking to utilize $309,000. So we've continued to ease off of reliance from the capital technology reserve and shift that into the general fund, ultimately to plateau out at about a $500,000 increase over the 5 years into the general fund as a total, and then no longer needing to use the capital tech reserve in a couple of years. And then our capital bus reserve, the district has not had to utilize that in the past few years. We were able to shift the full bus purchase into the general fund. So the current balance in there is $655,000, but that may be used to purchase buses with voter approval in the future should the district need to utilize the capital reserve fund. Other reserves that we have a repair reserve, which is to pay the cost of any emergency repairs that may come up for capital improvements to equipment and that don't come up annually. It is subject to a public hearing. District has $1.6 million in there. Employee benefit accrued liability reserve. These funds may be used to pay for compensated absences upon separation from the district. So whether somebody resigns or retires, if they have contractually a sick day payout or 403B contribution, the district may tap into this reserve to pay those expenses. And then we have tax tertiary reserve, liability reserve, and insurance reserve. These are for unanticipated uninsured losses. Our tax cert reserve, we do budget $20,000 to come in from that annually to pay off any of the refunds that might take place during the tax collection time. If some Article 7 petitions did settle, the district could utilize this as well to pay a portion of that settlement. And our liability reserve has been used in the past for any uninsured legal claims or losses that the district has had. Then board authorized reserves include our employee retirement contribution reserve. Here we've budgeted $1.24 million in the 1920 budget as well as the 2021 budget to be used. In 2018-19 at year end, the district shifted some money out of the employee retirement system up to the cap of what we could fund, the newly established teacher retirement system reserve. It's a sub-fund of the employer retirement contribution reserve. So that's why you see there's two there. One's identified as ERS, one is TRS, and that's how it is in our books as well. And then unemployment insurance reserve, the district does budget for $60,000 to pay any unemployment costs over the budgeted amount within the budget there. And you can see we have $470,000 balance there. The final piece, as I talked about before, is the technology purchase proposition to utilize $309,000 of the capital tech reserve to purchase information technology equipment and supplies. This will be a separate proposition on the ballot that authorizes the district to use those funds. Do you want to jump in?
Let's give Mr. Stevens a note of appreciation, Monica Shannon, and of course Chris Eckert. Well, great team in the midst of all what we've been processing from the coronavirus and how that's impacted our organization, capital improvement projects to further district initiatives. Matt and his team has been able to put together an incredible budget. staying on task and making sure it's all moving forward. So thank you very much. And our conversations will continue. The budget process moves forward. We'll be hearing different renditions of this budget as we move along. April 21st will be the final draft budget. We'll know more about what the governor's final budget will look like, and if there are any repercussions from where we are, that will be played out over the next several weeks. That will be on April 21st. The adoption and presentation of that, or the presentation then the adoption of that budget. May 5th will be a public hearing. May 19th will be the budget vote, and there are 3 incumbent seats that are coming due on that date that will be presented to the voters at Johanna Perrin Middle School from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Again, looking forward to having continued conversations, and I want to express my appreciation again to Matt Stevens and his team.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Well, we have our work cut out, right? There's a $2.6 million deficit, and several variables out there, but that's our work here between now and April 21st.
Do we have any budget workshops specifically planned?
Just regular workshops where the budget's part of the agenda. The Audit Finance Committee had been scheduled to meet, that was canceled, but we'll have to be meeting.
We're obviously not going to be having,
Excuse me.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
Sorry about that.
not going to be having open forums with the staff.
We did have those earlier. We did offer them in January, right, with staff and community.
I think we just need to be all mindful that we may have to have some other meetings due to
Yes.
the circumstances, so be a little flexible.
I have extra time.
And as you said, Pete, the 2.6 million is the low end of what it could
Yes.
be.
Right. Okay. So keeping that in mind and our work cut out for us.
We do, and that was, I was on a conference call this afternoon, and, just to be completely transparent, that's a very big part of everyone's thoughts, and will be next level conversations. And I do think, on a positive note, because I am an optimist, that I do think we are financially in positions to continue to manage it and to make sure that we're doing best for our children and guided by our principles as we move forward. We're fortunate.
Right. Okay, well, that takes us to Section 8 of our agenda, board discussion and action items. We first have the appointment of a deputy district clerk, and Christine Roth, already functioning fully. So a motion to approve, I'll make the motion, second by Judy. And comments or questions? Thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. 7-0, our deputy.
And thank you, Christine.
Architectural services, this was mentioned, the building condition survey every 5 years. Those who have access, right, it is in the public section to the contract will notice that's $370,000. That's, again, you mentioned it, it's an increase in the budget every 5 years, for which we're not given any state aid. Is any of this? It is aidable, but
Yep.
we'll see the revenue in the following year.
Following year, yep.
So not the next school year, but the one even after that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's aided at about 60, it's 68% aid
Okay.
back on that.
So anyway, 32%, I mean, it hits it all cash up front, basically, right? So anyway, that's the architectural services. I need a motion to approve. Damon, second. Joyce? Comments or questions? I should have made mine at this point, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? 7-0. Tentative agreement with the Fairport District paraprofessionals. Motion by Damon, second by Judy. Have any questions or comments? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Doug. He's not here, but Doug and Matt, right? Matt's always with them too, so.
And also thank you, paraprofessionals, for working this very, very pleasantly and to the
They
benefit
have-
of everybody.
They have been the backbone of a lot of this work, too, that we've experienced, so 100%, Tim.
And they are just
Culture carriers.
invaluable.
They're culture carriers, yeah.
Invaluable to our schools.
Our quiet heroes, I guess,
Mhm.
right? School-sponsored field trips, I suppose, I don't know if this has much application to us right now, right, in terms of the time frame of,
Most of them were kind of May or June, but one of them, I think, was for tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, for today, right. But the May and June apply, right, you're right. We hope they will apply. We think they will apply. Yep, today's does not. But regardless, we need to go forward and go ahead and approve those so that we can optimistically continue. So motion Judy, second Damon. Any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0. Seeker for our Smart Bond project, which we approved at the last meeting, so this is yet the next step for that. And motion to approve the resolution.
So moved.
Marty, and second then Tim. Questions or comments to the seeker? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0. Another seeker for the Joanna Perrin project is, this is the one you've kind of mentioned, right? The nursing office, right? So placed in our budget for next year, but motion to approve.
Move.
Joyce and second Damon. Questions or comments? None. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. 7-0. Our capital technology proposition to voters, again, just reviewed in the budget. I'll make a motion to submit that's to voters. Need a second? Joyce, second. Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. 7-0. And a resolution for approving our annual meeting and budget vote and election. This is for the next school year, right? Not for this, because we've already done all that. So in 2020, 2021. Motion to approve. Joyce, second. Marty. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 7-0. Policy first read. 3 policies there for first reading. Motion to approve. Damon, second. Judy. Questions, comments about the policies? No, all in favor?
Aye.
7-0. And our second reading, we realized we didn't have these on the agenda last month, I think, so this is second reading from a January policy, where we had the first. So, motion to approve the second reading. Kevin, second. Damon? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, the comment, sorry, I didn't.
Just a couple of typos, I'll send them.
I noticed that too.
Okay, typos will be corrected. Very good. All in favor with that?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, 7-0. Time for board comments, so we are not going into executive session, right? We have removed that for time being. So this is a time to make comments, and then we'll move on to adjournment. Adjourning. Anybody?
I have commented out.
That's a comment in and of itself.
I just like to thank the residents for understanding why we are not allowing the public to attend our meeting tonight due to the direction from the Monroe County Health Department, and I appreciate them for understanding that.
Indeed. Thank you. None else? Then a motion to adjourn. I'll make the motion. Damon, second. All in favor?
Aye.
6-7-0. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. Everybody stay safe and healthy.